Hello everybody from Plant Review UK. Today we will speak about some of the most beautiful and common orchids that you can easily buy in shops as well as online, the cymbidiums. Cymbidiums are orchids that originate mostly from Asia and Australia. However, the most common hybrids, like these plants, originates from species that are mainly from the Himalayan region. The Cymbidiums, as many other orchids, including Cattleyas and Epidendrum and Oncidium, they are sympodial. That is, they developed from one pseudobulb when they are seedlings, and in the following months and years they develop new pseudobulbs. The first pseudobulbs, in the meantime, they are used as energy store, and after some time they just get dry, so they lose the leaves, and they are not sometimes they are not viable anymore, like in Cattleyas, but some other times, like indeed in Cymbidiums, they can still be used if you want to propagate the orchid. If you plant them in the right compost, you have good chances that they will sprout new shoots, so it will originate a clone of the orchid you want to propagate, so with the same genetic background, as it's not a sexual propagation like the one that you have while pollinating flowers. Cymbidiums are differ in size according to obviously the species and varieties. These are miniature cymbidiums, and even if miniature, they are still quite big. They're about 40-50 centimeters in height. The leaves are quite tall. And they can carry up from 1 to 30 flowers. As you can see, this cymbidium has just one flower. This other developed 2 flowers on a spike, and it developed 3 others on another spike that, well, now they are fading. Well, this one has lots of flowers, about 20 in total. I counted 21 precisely. They have fleshy roots, and as I said, they are clump-forming orchids because they spread sympodially through pseudobulbs. The flowers are formed on the new pseudobulbs, while the old ones, as I said, they are used as energy store. The flowers are small to medium-sized. These are about 4 or 5 centimeters in size, while the white one is bigger, is about 7 to 8 centimeters, and about the same size is this yellow one. This yellow flower, as you can see, has a little bit deformed petal. Sometimes it happens with orchids. It's a pity because it's a very pretty flower. However, hopefully there might be, as you can see, well, a new shoot. Now it's too early to see if it actually a new flower spike or a new pseudobulb. Yeah, you can see it here in between the old pseudobulb and the new one. And yeah, hopefully, if it's a flower spike, will give nicely shaped flowers. So these are miniature cymbidiums, as I said. However, other cymbidiums are much bigger plants. They can reach more than 1 meter in height, very big plants, and they can produce lots of flower stalks with up to, as I said, 230 flowers per stalk, so they are absolutely stunning plants. But for a house, obviously, they are not very easy to keep indoors. So definitely I would recommend the miniature-sized cymbidiums. The flowers come in different, as you can see, in different colors. Shape-wise, the hybrids are all pretty similar, while the species are very different from each other. However, usually species are much more expensive and not very common in shops. A nice quality of these flowers is that many of these hybrids, as well as some species, are wonderfully fragrant. It really the best way to know if the cymbidium, if especially a hybrid, is fragrant or not, is actually to smell it when it's in flower. Some varieties are very famous to be very fragrant, like the golden elf cymbidium. However, still the best way is just go in a shop and when you find a cymbidium flower that you like, if you want also one that is fragrant, just smell it. And that's really what I did to when I chose these flowers. I loved the flower first, the shape, and then when I had to decide which ones among the few flowers I liked to buy, I decided to go for the ones that were also very fragrant. This one is in particular, unfortunately I don't know the name of these varieties. This one in particular is wonderfully fragrant. It's a lot of flowers, very small flowers, so it's not a very showy cymbidium. However, the fragrance can really fill the room. This one instead is still very fragrant. However, due to the fact that there's not many flower, is a little bit less powerful than the cymbidium with small flowers. This other one here, it's also fragrant, but definitely not as much as the small variety. And well, I will get back about the fragrance later in the video to talk about some species and a little bit of the history of the species. Cymbidiums usually bloom between autumn and early spring for about 4-6 weeks. Sometimes more if they produce more flower spikes, obviously. And some flowers as well can change color in time, as you can see here. That's an old flower of this beautiful cymbidium that is white with a pink lip. Well, there is an old flower, as you can see. Well, this one was ruined by bad weather because I kept it still outdoors when started the flower spike, and some blooms get very damaged by the rain. However, as you can see, you can still see the white, but the lip becomes very dark purple from the pink. And well, you can see here as well that these one second, I try to, this their flower here is a little bit older than the first two, and the lip is getting already a bit darker. Even this flower, as you can see by the margin, is a bit damaged by the bad weather. Talking about the cultivation, cymbidiums really are not tropical orchid usually. Most of them, and especially the hybrids species, well, the species that were used to produce the hybrids, most common in shops, come from the Himalaya. So really the best way to keep cymbidiums is try to keep them outdoors or in cold greenhouses as long as possible. If you don't have a cold greenhouse, like me, I just put cymbidiums from early spring to late autumn outdoors in a very luminous position. Try to avoid direct sunlight for more than 4 or 5 hours a day, and only in the morning only in the morning light. Otherwise the full sun the whole day can actually severely damage the leaves. However, getting direct sun in the morning for a few hours is perfectly fine for these species. And also another very important characteristic is that they need actually cooler temperatures than you can get indoors, especially in winter. It's particularly important during autumn when the flower spikes are formed that there's minimum temperatures in the evening of about 5 to 10 degrees, and this induces blooming. However, remember, like I didn't, to bring the flowers indoors, so still in the coolest area you have, very luminous, before the flowers on the flower spikes actually start blooming. Otherwise, as you can see, it's very easy to get the flowers damaged by rain, by slugs, etc. I would recommend again, if you can, to put them in a cold greenhouse where actually is the best way to keep cymbidiums. The compost, actually in 3 years, I never changed the compost. I've been keeping these plants for 3 years. The compost is mainly bark. However, most people cultivating cymbidiums recommend a mix of bark and moss and peat-free compost because these cymbidiums are semi-terrestrial. Cymbidiums really, they would need to be repotted at least once every 2 years, and as you can see, the cymbidiums of my plants are really getting pot bound, so they absolutely need repotting, and I will hopefully do a video soon, because the best time for repotting the cymbidiums is just after flowering in spring, and now the plants are in full bloom, so I think in about 1 month, 1.5 months I will go for the repotting. About the watering, I would suggest, like I did, I usually water them once a week from late autumn to early spring. If when temperatures rise, it's better to water them at least twice a week or more, just to keep the compost moist, but obviously not waterlogged as for most orchids. About where to buy cymbidiums, as I said, really cymbidiums are extremely common in shops, and actually this now is the best season to buy cymbidiums because most hybrids are in full flower now. So between late autumn and early spring, now it's late winter, really, shops are full of beautiful cymbidiums that you can easily buy. At the moment I saw prices about of between 15 and 25, 30 pounds, according obviously to the size of the plant and the flower. Another feature of the cymbidium is obviously the lip. Actually, cymbidium comes from the Greek word kymbe, that is stands for boat, and it's actually due to the shape of the lip. As you can see, the sides are kind of vertical and they resemble the hull of a ship, and this is also explained in this beautiful book I have, the Orchids in Lore and Legend, where it talks a lot about cymbidiums, both about the species but also about the history of cymbidiums. In particular, the cymbidiums are very famous in China and Japan for having been cultivated mainly for for their perfume, their beautiful fragrance, both in China, like as you can see, Cymbidium gueranging, Acifolium and Floribundum, as well as in Japan again with Cymbidium and Acifolium. Actually, the fragrance of the Cymbidium is so powerful that even in another book, Orchid Fever, that explains, yes, about different, lots of very interesting stories about orchids. The chapter about the scent of orchids is actually mostly dedicated to a Cymbidium species, Cymbidium faberi, that is very famous for its fragrance and is especially kept in high regard in Japan. And they use the orchids, the so-called Toyoran orchids, to perfume their homes in a dedicated area of the house. So, as I said, Cymbidiums, if you like easy plant to grow, they are pretty easy. They can stay in the garden, in a luminous spot. They receive morning light basically from early spring, I would say, yeah, late March, April, up to October, early November in UK. And the rest of the year they can be in ideally in a cold greenhouse. Otherwise you can bring them indoors, but always keep them in a very in the coolest place in the house that you can get. Otherwise a common problem is that the flowers that are forming the flower spike might actually stop developing and just dry up. However, I really can recommend these orchids if you want to have a go. To orchids, they're usually very easy orchids, particularly beautiful, come in a lot of colors, and it's always a nice combination to have a wonderful flower with a gorgeous color and an incredible fragrance. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I would like to receive your comments, both positive or negative, obviously, how can I improve the channel, and if you like it, I will be very pleased if you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Bye.